Good evening and welcome to the Village Board meeting for the Village of Pleasantville. Let me get back to my agenda. Today is Monday, April 28th. If you are watching live on Monday, April 28th, we encourage you to call in if you have comments or questions. The call-in number is 769-1677. We are broadcasting live on both Verizon and Cablevision as usual, but we're not live on the web at pctv76.org tonight because of a technical upgrade going on. However, you can go to pctv76.org within a few days to see the on-demand webcast. Our next work session is on Monday, May 5th at 7 p.m., a week from today, and our next regular meeting is in 2 weeks, Monday, May 12th at 8 p.m. with a work session at 7. I need to share with you the email I just received from our very recently retired trustee Skarstad, who has sent a picture of himself on his front porch with his dog with the subject line, "I'm here and you're there." So, did you get that, Shane? All right.
When you've been on the board for 40 years,
Yeah.
you get really appreciative.
Yeah.
Oh, was it 40 years?
He's trying to make us, was it 39?
39 maybe.
He looks like
Isn't that his picture over there?
All right, hello, Brian.
he looks like Bartles from
sure he's
Bartles and
watching.
James.
I had a few announcements to make. The first is that our extremely energetic and very effective Pleasantville Recycling Committee is sponsoring, as they have in the past couple of years, a collection of used sports equipment and then a giveaway of that equipment at Pleasantville Day. So on Saturday, May 3, this coming Saturday, from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m., the Recycling Committee will be receiving any sports equipment in any condition that you would like to get out of your house. That's happening at the Henkel's lot, formerly MLA, that's adjacent to the ball fields and DPW at 1 Village Lane. Drive down just as you would to the recycling center or to the parking lot by the ball fields and turn right. So that's Saturday, May 3 at 9 a.m. They are giving away, they're collecting anything you want to get rid of, used sports equipment, and then get yourself to their booth on Memorial Plaza on Pleasantville Day, Saturday, May 17 from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. and pick up for free cleats, pads, balls, bats, any other equipment they have at their booth. It's a great way to take gently used or even pretty heavily used sports equipment and find a new home for it. So congratulations to
And
Pleasantville
May 3rd is
Recycles.
this Saturday.
This Saturday.
Yep.
Reminder, obviously, that Pleasantville Day is Saturday, May 17. Lots of great things planned for that day, and so mark your calendar for that. I had a few other announcements to make. Last week was full of activities. Congratulations to the folks at the Pleasantville Middle School who ran a very successful and impressive Earth Day that I was happy to attend. The Rotary Club of Pleasantville celebrated its 90th anniversary. Patty and I were in attendance at that event. 90 consecutive years of service of the Pleasantville Rotary Club, which has been a core supporter for lots of Pleasantville activities for now 90 years. Congratulations to them. On Friday, Pace University student body held its American Cancer Society Relay for Life at the Goldstein Gym. Really impressive operation where they raise a huge amount of money to support cancer. Quite a remarkable scene to see zillions of college students deciding to spend their evening and long into the night in the school gym together, working on things to raise money for the American Cancer Society. And kudos also to the Pleasantville Lions Club, which has this year, as they have in past years, been a sponsor of that activity and provided a sit-down dinner for cancer survivors who are there as part of the American Cancer Society fundraiser. So really impressive thing, and thanks to all of those people.
In the chamber, the glass onion.
Oh, yes. There were so many activities.
There were.
Chamber of Commerce also last week honored Matt Yaros of the Glass Onion and his wife Emily Wong as Business People of the Year, a very well-deserved honor. Dinner was held down at Trattoria 160 on Marble Avenue. Very well attended and an awful lot of fun as well. So congratulations to Matt and Emily, and congratulations to the Glass Onion, which has been a core member of the Pleasantville Chamber of Commerce and also a core piece of our downtown retail. So happy event all the way around. Anything else on the list? We're edging towards the final farm market indoors at the middle school. It closes for 1 week and then opens in its Memorial Plaza home. Have I got that right, Mindy?
Yeah.
I think so.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, before
Or Colleen,
Presidential Day and
actually, yeah.
after.
Right. Let's see, am I right? Right.
You're right.
The first outdoor market is May 24th,
Right.
Saturday, May 24th.
The Saturday
Okay.
after Pleasantville Day.
All right. With that, we will move to our agenda. The first is a public hearing on a local law amending Chapter 173, Vehicles and Traffic, Section 173-63, parking prohibited certain hours on Sutton Place. Is there a motion to open the public hearing?
So,
And a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We do not intend to vote on this matter tonight. There has been a lot of commentary that we have received, including quite a number of letters and emails on both sides of the issue. What is under discussion is a proposal to amend the chapter we just described to establish a parking prohibition on both sides of Sutton Place for its entire length between the hours of 2 p.m. and 4 p.m. on school days. As I mentioned, that is not a resolution we have on the agenda to act tonight. The purpose of the public hearing is to hear people's opinions on all sides. And with that, I welcome anyone who is interested in commenting to come to the podium, give us your name and address, and let us know what you think.
Hi, I'm Allie Sarabin.
You
gotta
need to
come
come
there.
up to the mic.
Otherwise they can't hear you at home.
Okay.
And just pull it down, so.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Allie Sarabin. I live at 44 Sutton Place. We are the newest members of Sutton Place, I guess, my family and I. And the reason we brought this to the attention of the board, the village, is because earlier in December, my mother-in-law was walking our 6-year-old daughter home from school at around 3:05 p.m., and she was struck by a car. And we felt that it was, important for people in the village to know, for the board to know that, people are driving unsafely. Also, we feel that every child has, deserves to have a safe route to school, being that we have no buses. And, in general, we're just concerned about safety of adults and children being able to walk to school and from school. It's something that I deal with on a daily basis. I do pick up, and it is very congested on our street. It is very difficult to get by with or without a stroller. We do so by walking on our neighbors' lawns, and I apologize to those of you who have had to recede because of us. But it's really been very challenging. I have 3 children. I have to put my 4-year-old, who is a very good walker, in a stroller, and my 2-year-old in a stroller, because it's just not safe. I mean, I can't trust that they're going to listen to me when a car is coming and doesn't stop. And, it's, I just can't see myself and I can't see my kids allowing them to walk on their own anytime, in the near future, because I don't trust the people who are driving and parking on our street to stop for them. When you walk down the street and somebody's pulling off the street after they've picked up their children, there's like this much space left on the pavement to walk. And nobody wants to walk this close to a car, and we really shouldn't have to. We are the only street in the vicinity of BRS that does not have sidewalks, and also it does not have through traffic. We're a cul-de-sac. And people, come driving down the street, to turn around. People come and they park on the street, and they just don't take the time to look at what's going on. And we really would, like some help in dealing with this issue. And I know that there are a lot of teachers and aides who park on the street, and they are quite respectful. You know, they're not driving up on our lawn. They're not, you know, driving really quickly. They come well before school starts and they leave well after school ends. You know, and we don't have an issue, I don't have an issue with, you know, the teachers and aides, the people who work at BRS parking on the street. It is really an issue of other parents parking on the street and how they conduct themselves as they leave the street and enter the street. And that is really my concern as a parent of 3 small children.
So one of our problems, and you are among many who have made that point, that the cars that are parked there for a longer time are not a problem. But the law does not allow us to, say, give permits for certain people and say you're allowed to park on a public street and you're not. So it's one of the struggles we have on lots of streets, where also a struggle for streets that are near the downtown, where they are affected by people who work downtown and want to park in suburban streets and all of that. So,
Right, we have that problem too.
Right.
But
Sutton is obviously a narrow street and a dead end. People keep swiping the dead end sign, which isn't helping either.
yes, they do. And the street sign. We actually have no
A
signs.
souvenir or something. So,
Yeah.
It's not a problem in the morning because parents drop off from the car and don't park.
Well, it's not a problem in the morning at this point in the year. At the beginning of the school year, when you have the incoming kindergartners or you have the first graders who are like a little kind of like nervous and they don't want, you know, they don't want to be dropped off, because I have plenty of friends who did this last year. You know, they're parking and they're bringing their kids to school, you know, walking them up to the front door. But by like October, there's not that many people parking in the morning. It just isn't an issue in the morning.
We had talked about the fact that there is already parking prohibited on one side of the street, and there's already setbacks on the street, but they're
Right.
violated.
They are violated on a regular
So
basis.
they're not being, obviously, not being enforced. We have an enforcement issue on the street.
We do, and I've spent quite a bit of time calling the police to enforce it, and they only come when they're called, and people have been, I think, discouraged fairly, well, I don't know, in the last month or two from parking. But
So it's better as a result of more
It's better
police
as a
presence?
result of myself and other people calling the police and saying, hey, there's a car that looks like this parked there. Can you please come up and, you know, ticket them?
So what makes you think that if you put in a prohibition of parking between 2 and 4 on the street, that they're not going to violate that because they're just running to the school to pick up their kids?
I think that people will violate it until, you know, the police make a presence. I don't know. I think,
You know, if it's an issue now, what makes you think it's good? You know, we obviously have an enforcement issue.
right, we have an enforcement issue. I can't answer that for you. I mean, I'm a resident. I mean, you know, I'm just, you know, I'm letting you know my
You've
concern.
come up with a solution, so I'm just asking you why you think your solution is going to solve the problem that you have.
I think it might solve the solution. I think it might be a solution only because having fewer people, having less traffic on the street would make it safer, one would hope and think, for the people that are on foot. I mean, I don't know, fewer cars, fewer accidents, you know, it's just, you know, I don't know that what we've put out there is going to be a solution. I can only just come up with something that I think is reasonable. And neighbors sat down, you know, a number of us sat down in December and we discussed this. You know, we've had a lot of emails going back and forth to try to come up with something that, you know, makes it, that we think will make it safer.
Okay, so and you've given us a new copy of a petition we've seen before, which is signed by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 residents, one of whom has since sent a letter indicating he would like to back off from his approval of this petition, but it suggests recommendations: ticketing illegal parkers, improving signage with no parking, no standing, and a full-size dead-end sign for eastbound traffic, and a second full-size dead-end sign to indicate dead-end for westbound. No parking 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. on school days, which is the subject of this hearing, and then a request for additional information about a speed bump or a rumble strip at the start of the street, raising the question of a sidewalk on the fire hydrant side. That's the even-numbered house side of the street. Is that realistic? Would the street be recentered? feasibility of slowing down vehicle turning speed at the curved street entrances by potentially squaring off the street corners from the current rounded condition. So that all in hand and part of the record. I thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Other commentators, welcome.
Many of you stole my
Can you just give us your name and address, please?
Claire McAndrew, 47 Sutton Place.
And we have your letter.
Yes, so
Yes, we
what
do.
I thought I might do is just read it. I'm not
Sure,
much of a
feel free.
public
Go for it.
speaker, so
Yes.
I had it on paper, so some of it you all
That's
just
fine, no problem.
said. So we're 15-year residents of Sutton Place with 2 children in the Pleasantville schools, and we want to express that we do not support implementing permanent changes establishing hours-based parking regulations on Sutton. As you are aware, 2 petitions were circulated in the neighborhood following an incident in which a grandmother of one of the neighborhood children was injured by a non-resident using the street for BRS after-school pickup. The first petition was to gain support to engage the village in discussions, and the second, based upon notices to our homes, was to amend the parking regulations. While the seriousness of the accident cannot be ignored, and the congestion on Sutton during BRS pickup is a long-standing problem, we do not think that adopting permanent measures addressing temporary inconveniences is the best solution. These permanent measures will have long-term impact to the residents of the street, and not just the village residents trying to use the street for short-term parking enabling school pickup. Residents of the street and their guests would also be prohibited from on-street parking between 2 and 4 p.m. on school days under the current proposal. These regulations would be a standing legal change to an issue which exists for approximately 30 minutes each day when school is in session. The Sutton neighborhood has had much email discussion on the topic with several sensible points made, such as the fact that many of the cars parked on Sutton are BRS staff members who would be the unintended recipients of any restrictions. And as several residents pointed out, the school employees are likely to be more accountable and make use of the parking for the entire school day, meaning their cars would be remaining in place and not creating traffic safety concerns. The BRS teachers and Sutton residents and their guests who use on-street parking would be subject to the same restrictions intended to prevent transient parking, resulting in increased traffic flows during the BRS pickup times. Rather than permanently amending the code and pushing Sutton's parking problem onto other neighboring streets, the village should consider more active enforcement during BRS dismissal times, which is the critical time concern. One of the key issues presented on Sutton is the illegal parking which occurs in the no parking zone on the southeast end of the street where it meets Bedford Road. With cars parked in this zone, as they invariably are during pickup times, a blind turn is created while turning onto Sutton and a game of chicken ensues when 2 cars meet traveling in opposite directions in a 1-car street width. Enforcement of this corner during pickup times, as well as the installation of a dead end, or better yet, a no outlet sign, since dead end signs appear to be collectible items, indicating there is no outlet on the street, would be helpful and create a safer environment for Sutton residents and those using the street for temporary parking. Before agreeing to make irrevocable changes to the Sutton Place neighborhood, we hope the village and school community will consider playing a more active role in safely managing the school pickup traffic, both pedestrian and vehicular, and we propose the following measures: signage, installation and secure fastening of a no outlet sign on the corner of Bedford Road and Sutton Place with clear indication of the no parking zone at the corner, in addition to one of the following: crossing guard / enforcement. The village could station an officer or crossing guard at the Sutton-Bedford intersection. In addition to aiding the BRS family concerns, this would also help the several Sutton Place families who have children in the middle and high schools and who use the Ashland Avenue access to the schools. A crossing guard stationed at the intersection of Bedford and Sutton would accomplish the following: make the crossing safer for those trying to cross Bedford Road to or from Ashland, monitor the no parking zone at the end of Sutton, and regulate the Sutton traffic flow during BRS pickup. Or, in addition to the signage, parking regulation enforcement. If after a careful review, parking regulation is the determined course of action, we would support a permit parking system which allows for Sutton Place residents and BRS staff to be authorized permit holders. In this instance, we would also expect that residents of Sutton Place would not be expected to pay a fee for a permit which would allow them to park on their own street. Each of these would help to manage the Sutton Place traffic and safety concerns related to BRS school pickup times without negatively impacting or inconveniencing the Sutton residents. And I just had a third point that I realized came to me after I sent the letter, which is also utilizing the existing communications that come out from the school district and each of the schools themselves. Reminders could be put in the various newsletters we all get to our homes about courtesy, being courteous neighbors as we pick our kids up from school, and that could take place in communications that are already out there. Reminders about safety and courtesy.
Okay, thank you for that.
Thank you.
But again, just to reiterate the one point, we don't have the right to give precedence to one group to park in a given location. Residents don't have any more right to park in front of their homes than anybody else by state law. Fairly described, Patty?
Yeah, I think the only exceptions are for cities that may have situations like Rye has a lot of beach traffic, so some of that neighborhood was
If you're a
exempted by the
resident,
state
yeah.
legislature, yeah.
And that, but
But-
that applies only to cities.
Yeah, you would need special permission from the state legislature to have on-street parking restrictions, because the theory is they're public streets, they belong to the general public, you can't reserve them. Off-street, you can do anything you want, but on the street, no.
So, and I know I
So if
don't
you had a
mean to be
private- a
unsympathetic.
public parking lot,
It's a
you could
frustrating
restrict it.
condition. We have this problem in many neighborhoods that are popular spots for people to park and commute from the train. You end up with somebody parked in front of your house for 12 hours a day every day is an extremely frustrating position to be in. And the response we're forced into is to have some parking regulation that says you can't park there for an hour or something during the course of the day to eliminate that kind of parking. But
Normally, that comes when a neighborhood comes to you and says, we have all these commuters parking on our street, we need some regulation.
I'm the victim of that myself, having occasionally received a ticket for being parked in front of my own house. So that's a struggle to which there is no perfect answer, but all good points. Other speakers?
Good evening.
Hi.
My name is Allison Warner-Land. I'm at 46 Sutton Place. Thank you, Claire. The idea of a crossing guard was something we discussed together when a number of families, 5 or 6 families from the street got together, and we thought it was a solution to one of the problems about the street. It would help traffic the end of the street where Sutton Place meets Bedford Road. That opening is about twice as wide as the actual street is, and it causes a number of different problems. My concern, and one of the reasons we dismissed it as one of our primary proposals to you, was that the bulk of the challenge in our children walking to school occurs behind that and to the point where the cul-de-sac opens up. I appreciate the teachers'
That's the
park
whole far end, all the way at the other end.
all the way to the other end, and then the problem ends or changes at the cul-de-sac area. So it's the
People
narrow.
drive down and turn around.
They whip around and come back, but it's the narrow part of the street. So from about one house in to the beginning of the cul-de-sac that I see as the biggest problem. My concerns are severalfold. I understand that the teachers park there. My understanding, though, is that there are places, particularly along Manville, where there are sidewalks and no parking regulations. So they're able to legally park there for the duration of the day. My understanding is that we are one of the only, if not the only street in the village that doesn't have any parking restrictions, including no 2-hour parking restrictions, which are on the rest of the streets between Academy and the train station to discourage commuter parking. That being said, I spent 4 years in the House commuting to the city and would walk behind people parking on my street who went to the train station. So I know we have a commuter parking problem on the street as well.
Is that a significant problem, or,
Define significant.
I mean, are there a bunch of people
It's
doing
a
that every day?
regular ongoing problem that we have cars parked on our street, just as you just mentioned, for 12 hours a day, and they walk to the station from our street because we are the only one that's walkable in the village that doesn't have 2-hour parking restrictions. It is a problem. Whether or not it's a significant problem,
First I've heard of that.
I don't know, define significant. So in that part of the street, my major concerns are that during the day at pickup, during that 30 minutes, when cars are going up and down the street, they're using our driveways to turn around, which is fine, but some cars are making K-turns on that part of the street, and the most egregious of those was a pickup truck with one of the elevated wheels that attempted to do a K-turn right at the mouth of Sutton Place. And if I hadn't pulled my child away, my child would have gone underneath the pickup truck. That's at the front of the street. That car goes down the street, and my kids who are kindergarten, 3rd, and 6th can't be seen beyond that car. So I appreciate that this is a drastic solution for a truncated problem, but it is I believe it is a significant problem during that small period of time. The other concern I have about that narrow part of street, in cars coming in, I can deal with someone who wants to be rude to me because it's my street and I want them to back up so that I can get through. But during the winter, of particular concern during the winter, especially a winter like this one, where we had feet and feet and feet of snow, which further narrowed the passageway down the street. And bushes that are well within the property lines on either side push cars out into the street so far that emergency vehicles are not able to get down, nor are sanitation vehicles. My biggest concern, though, was before Allie and Ben Sarabin moved in, we had a very elderly couple on the street who regularly had ambulance, or 2 or 3 times over the course of the last year that I lived there, ambulances couldn't get down the street. My daughter was at risk for febrile seizures in her early toddler years. We couldn't get an ambulance up and down the street because of that seasonal issue with the snow. So I would argue that it's not just about the school dismissal time, but this is a regular and ongoing problem, particularly during the winter.
When you say you couldn't get, you tried to get an ambulance to your house and one couldn't get there?
We've made a number of calls to the Parks Department, to the Sanitation Department in the village when they haven't been able to get down the street. They've attempted to get down the street, but have not been able to because it's such a narrow opening with snow and daily parkers. That should be on record.
Couldn't pick up the tray, couldn't get down.
But if those vehicles can't get down, there's no way a fire truck would have been able to get down?
But you're just saying that hypothetically they couldn't get down
Yeah.
either.
If I can't get
you weren't in a situation.
No, I was
where
not in a
you were-
situation.
okay.
But if I couldn't get a sedan down the street, there's no way any kind of emergency vehicle would have been able to make it down the street either.
And that was because people were parked illegally, or there was parking on the street?
All the parking on the street is legal up until the no parking sign at the end.
On one side,
Right, yeah, no, those are legal parkers.
yeah.
People park legally on our
Right.
street. We're
Yeah.
preventing the
So-
passageway of any vehicle larger than a sedan. I'm sorry, did I answer your question?
Yeah. No, go ahead.
So wouldn't you be arguing for no parking at any time?
I absolutely would, except that the families on our street got together to try and find something that was compromise, that we could all live with, and that we could deliver to the other families on the street who were less amenable to more drastic changes. My preference would be a sidewalk, but that raises a whole other host of issues, including property lines, property taxes, cost, manpower, location, centering the street on both sides. There were so many issues that came up with the possibility of putting in a sidewalk, which would have been my preference. I think this is a drastically cut back compromise. And I am at the very end of the street. I don't live in one of the houses that have cars parked out in front 16 hours a day. I see this as a stopgap measure or something that will take care of one small portion of the problem.
Thank you.
So, I mean, should we have public safety? I mean, this is the first I've heard
Me too.
that sanitation and...
Oh,
yeah.
Is this,
Vehicles
I
can't
mean,
get down.
does everybody experience that sanitation can't get down your streets? You don't get garbage pickup, you can't get ambulances?
We
you
had
can't
2
get
weeks
fire
in the
department?
winter
I mean,
where we couldn't get
is this a
recycling in.
Is this a concern of the entire street during especially during the winter?
I don't know if people all care, but it is a concern.
Well, okay, I think you would care, but I'm just saying,
And that was the cars, the snow, or both?
Oh, that was the cars and the snow together that made it impossible for the sanitation vehicles to pass.
And I imagine that also squares out all the driveways, so it must have been harder for people to turn around, right?
Oh,
Because
yeah,
the snowbank elongates.
the street. And then, I mean, Ally was saying, then the space that for a pedestrian between the street and onto the grass, and her mother-in-law was hit on the grass and not even actually on the street. So if you think about the cars not actually staying even within the parameters of the street, and that was a car that was registered to a Pleasantville resident. This isn't an out-of-town person we're talking about either in town. Was so truncated that we're limiting the ability to maintain our character, I think, as a walking district, because I don't want my kids walking to school if that's the nature of the beast there, or particularly walking home at the end of the day. And that's a problem that a crossing guard at the end of the street will not solve. They'll be able to get people safely across the street, and it's an idea that I love, having a crossing guard there, but that only solves part of the problem.
I think it's the idea of a crossing guard 20 feet from another crossing guard is,
Yeah, it's,
yeah. I don't see that happening,
Yeah.
you know.
not to belabor the point, but so I've, just so you guys know what I'm looking at, this is your street, right?
Yes.
And this, you're fortunate in that Google seems to have driven by your street exactly at the time you're talking about, because the street is loaded, Shannon, I don't know if you can see that.
Well, that's not uncommon.
It's loaded with cars all the way down to the cul-de-sac. And there are actually families with children, and their faces have been muzzed out, cowering on the grass as the Google truck goes by them. So this fence right here, when in the wintertime, you must have no choice but to walk in the street.
Yeah, there are a number of
There's no
places where we have no
sidewalks.
choice. There's no
sidewalks. And
sidewalks.
so if the snow is in past that fence line, that's where the site becomes an issue, because somebody comes whipping around here and you're in the middle of the road, because you have no other place to be.
And I would, I've also made a number of phone calls to the police to ask them to come up to ticket people parked illegally at the mouth, on the corner of the street.
Yeah, that's so bad.
It is
It's a
bad,
problem
and
at
you asked
Ashland, too.
whether or not parking restrictions on the rest of the street would be enforced, and I would argue that as a tax-paying villager, I would hope so, but we haven't been able to do anything other than what we've been able to do, and our proposed changes include greater enforcement.
But I have to tell you that every block in the village that has those setback restrictions at pickup time are violated.
But every block,
Right across the street, Ashland Avenue, you could go down to
yes.
Academy, you could go down to Graviton, you could go down to any Academy Extension, Manville, Guyon, every street that people pull up at the last minute and they park illegally.
Absolutely. The distinction between all of the streets you mentioned in our street is that we don't have a sidewalk, so we don't have an option for children who want to walk safely on our street. All the other streets in the village do have some kind of parking restrictions to prevent commuters from parking there all day. The 2-hour restrictions, I know those are a headache for teachers at all the schools as well, but we are the only street that does not have those parking restrictions and doesn't have a sidewalk, and that distinguishes us from all the other streets that you just mentioned.
You do have parking restrictions, it's just you don't have a 2-hour parking restriction.
We don't-
It's a two-length spot.
We need to talk.
We don't have,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, what parking
It's a
restrictions?
setback.
Oh, well, on one side, one side you're not allowed to park, is that what you mean?
You do have parking restrictions, there's no parking on one side.
Let me clarify,
and
we're the
there's
only
7.
street in the village that doesn't have a 2-hour parking restriction.
That's right, that would be it.
How many, I'm just curious, because I'm trying to think how we could reduce the number of cars going in there after school. Has anybody ever looked at, the way people turn in? Like, for example, in Academy, you can't make a left turn. That if we were to somehow prohibit someone's traveling a certain way, making that left. Has anybody looked at that? Would it do? I'm just thinking that that's a terrible turn. If I'm making a right heading into town,
Right.
is better than a left across traffic. Something like that we could do.
I would
We
be
could
happy to
look at-
defer to the rest of the people on the street to talk
Just
about that.
curious.
My concern would be that pushes traffic back around the other way past the 2 sets of crossing guards and would change the traffic flow in other parts of town as well.
It's just because you're
Sure.
a dead end too.
We are a dead end.
That, people who are quick trying to get in there and turn around to go the other
I agree.
direction, would it just somehow relieve some of that for a half-hour period or an hour period? I don't know, but it might be worth having the safety committee look at.
The last thing I would say is that we now have over 20 school-age children on the street. Some are preschool age, and so this is looking for those of our families to be a problem for the next 15 or 16 years. Those families that are now on the street, and I will speak for the ones that have come together for this meeting, are here because it's a walking district and because the school is in our backyard, and that's what we love about the neighborhood. And almost as soon as we've been on the street with this accident, and then another one like it the year before, that's been really compromised for us. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Sorry. My name is Ann Brown. I live on 38 Sutton Place with my husband Paul. We are 25, I can't believe that, 25-year residents of Sutton Place with 2 children who graduated from the Pleasantville School District. We are not in favor of amending the law for parking restrictions on our street from 2 to 4 on school days. We feel strongly if the regulations for the parking on our street were strictly enforced, that it would be a safer place for pedestrians and vehicles. We would also support a permit parking system which would allow school teachers, employees of BRS, to be authorized permit holders. We do feel that the people who would be most impacted by this amendment would be the teachers who drive and park responsibly on Sutton Place and have no other place to park, and the residents of Sutton Place who would be prevented from parking in front of our own homes when we have guests, friends, or workers in our homes. And I have to say, I understand, the key issue is safety. And my own children and myself walk to school and home from school every day, and we just always had to pay careful attention to safety, where we walked, how we walked. I think that when you choose to buy a house 1 block away from a school that has no parking lot and is a walking district, we had to spend extra time on understanding the problem that we would have with our kids when they were commuting. And we feel strongly that this 2-hour restriction is not going to be the real let me think, that the 2-hour restriction would not be a deterrent, exactly, because we would have more people coming in and out of the street, I feel. So there's so many employees and teachers, and of course I'm really aware and sensitive to that issue, because so many of the streets that are 1 to 2 blocks away from the school are already crowded and full of traffic, and these people really have no place else to park. I mean, adding those 10 cars that park on our street on a regular basis to Guyon or Ashland or even Clark, they already park all the way down Manville. So I do feel that they come early and stay late, and we're just pushing that problem onto another street. So I also have a lot of company at my home and a lot of family visiting, and and they park their cars in front of my home when I'm at work. So I'm not in favor, and neither is my husband, of this. And thank you for your consideration.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Come on up.
Come on up.
Deborah Gallo, 38 Sutton Place. I'm a 38-year resident of the school. Our daughters are alumni of the Bedford Road Middle School and High School here. When we bought our house and moved here, there were 2 elementary schools, so this was not such a problem. In fact, it wasn't a problem at all. The problem has gotten increasingly worse as the years have gone by. When our daughters graduated from high school or graduated from college, and both of them were substitutes in the school system, I worried about them walking home after school because the street is so congested in the after-school hours. If you come home at 4:30, it's okay, but if you're coming home right after 3:05, 3:10, it's a nightmare. Snow notwithstanding, when a car comes in and all these cars are parked, cars have to back up. They have to pull to the side to allow a car to go by. You throw a construction vehicle, a tree removal vehicle, any other large, a moving van into the mix, and it is very, very dangerous. And it is an absolute miracle that there has not been a worse accident than we have had. I know there's a lot of cars. The parking is an issue. Clark Street has sidewalks on both sides, and when I've been down Clark Street, it is wide open during the day. And frankly, that would be safer parking for teachers to park there, less chance that they might get a car. Their car might get hit on Clark than on Sutton. Changing the direction coming in, the start of the street is very dangerous, but I don't know that not allowing traffic to come one way, because I think that would just make more traffic issues at a bad time of day. I hope you can see your way clear. No parking, no standing, 2 to 4. If you don't feel you can make it permanent, if you could do it as a temporary measure to see how it would work for the rest of the school year, and then hopefully the school district can find ways to find spaces for these teachers to park. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Are most of the parents parking and getting out of their car and going to meet the kid at school? Or do they wait for the kid to come to Sutton to meet the car?
They usually go to the school.
Most parents are parking,
And many
getting
of
out
them
and going
are
to school.
arriving at
Right.
2:30 or earlier. And
In
so
order to get,
to secure.
right, so
a
the benefit of those
car.
listening, Ally is reporting that by her description, parents get there as early as 2:30 in order to secure a space, even though the kid isn't going to get out of school for another 20 or 30 minutes.
They've been doing that for years.
Right.
I used to do that myself. And my youngest is 23. So I definitely was guilty of that myself.
I mean, Peter, on the Google thing that you guys can all pull up,
Yes.
the last car is literally all the way out on the curve.
Yeah.
And it goes all the way
right.
out.
Go ahead.
I had a quick question, Patty. I know we can't, under state law, have a particular restriction for certain residents, but can we do, I mean, last time we talked about this, is there a way to, the comment notwithstanding about the direction, but make it a one-way with the residents allowed to go against the one-way? So one-way out, in some countries overseas, you're allowed to do that. There's a special sign that says, this is a one-way street coming out, but if you live here, you're allowed to go down the road. Can we do that? I'm not saying it's a good idea, I'm just curious if it's a...
Those people are crazy.
That's
why they do that.
There are different types of measures like that could work.
I mean,
It really, you
where
know,
I
I mean,
lived, it worked very well.
The bottom line, whether
was
it's
that?
that or whether
Vermont?
it's
That was
no
in
parking,
Germany.
standing, stopping, no kidding, you know, being,
Right.
the enforcement's the issue either way. You know,
Right.
if we don't
Yes.
have the
Exactly.
ability
Yes.
to get there, because that is a critical traffic hour, we really try to stay out of that zone, you know, for the sake of circulating police cars, you know, around the perimeter, because if we get stuck in it, we're stuck in it as well. So, you know, we're close by. The question is if I can get parking enforcement up there and not, you know, I mean, it's just as effective.
I just want to
And
mention,
if
you know,
we
we
can-
did this by the library because of the same issues, and it's worked.
Yeah.
You know, there's no parking now
Which worked?
allowed from the corner down to the first house on Romer on the library side.
Yeah.
And it's really helped the
Thank you.
safety issues.
Yeah, and the neighbors may
So-
remember, a couple of years back, we were putting cones out, you know, for a
Yeah.
little
At the
bit of
library.
time.
Yeah, at the library.
No, on Sutton.
Oh,
You gotta
Oh.
come up.
The police chief
Sorry.
has not done that.
And,
We
and,
have our new police chief, he has not put cones.
and I think it was effective, you know, I think
The
it
cones
helped.
were effective.
I mean, if,
putting cones at the
At
no
the end.
parking zone at the end.
at the end. I
Well,
mean,
clearly, I mean, that's already in place in law. People are violating it
Right.
widely, and we need a full court press to the extent that we have people power to
Right.
do it. As Patty mentioned, it is a difficult, it's, as you might imagine, there are lots of neighborhoods that want and need enforcement all at the same time, as well as other demands on the police and park enforcement at the same time. But clearly, and we will certainly have a chat with the school district about the extent to which they can communicate to parents that we are going to get aggressive about people parking in these no standing zones. There are an awful lot of people that seem to think that as long as they're in the car, it doesn't matter where they are.
Because unfortunately.
Well, and
Right.
and people know that, I mean, I have to tell you, I agree, I'm not satisfied with the enforcement. I understand it because just like you don't want to be driving up in that area, neither do they. But I'm dissatisfied with the enforcement and we need to do something about that because it would help. It would. I mean,
No
if they
doubt,
start
I agree.
ticketing people, people
That'll
will
do it.
stop parking. So we need to get aggressive on that.
But I think maybe the school district should look into maybe having an organized pickup down Academy like you do with a drop-off. And that may solve everybody's problems, that people could pull up and pick up their kid. I mean, I don't know how you would organize something like that, class by class, or, I don't know, something, but you do such a great job at drop-off when people pull up at Academy at, you know, the crack of dawn, and there's people there opening the doors for the kids, getting them out, and there's never a problem
But you don't
in
have
the
to match up
morning.
a kid to a car on
Yeah,
the way
I
out.
know, that's
Right.
the problem, I don't know, but, you know, they're hey, there's a school district, they're creative, they You know, unfortunately, you can't regulate stupidity, and that's part of the problem. You can't.
Or
You can-
laziness.
You can put a billion laws on the books, but people are going to be stupid and do stupid things, and you can't regulate it because they're just going to keep doing it. So, you know, the enforcement, as Colleen said, is the paramount
It's not the
thing.
guy in the bike lane.
Well, and
Remember that,
I mean,
John.
human nature being what it is, people want to park as close as they can to their destination. I can report, I live on Martling and nobody parks there.
Well, I come down Manville
even though
every
it's
day, and
within-
there's nobody
Right.
past Clark Street on Manville,
true.
and there's plenty of parking there. There is nobody there. I've looked since we had this conversation 2 weeks ago. So there are parking spaces, they're
But-
just farther
but-
than
but
Sutton.
at 3 o'clock,
Yes.
all of the, on Manville, all of the setbacks are parked in illegally. Every single one, those 4 corners are all parked in, because they could have a parking space down by Soldiers and Sailors and walk to school to pick
Right.
up their child, but they don't. They park illegally on the corners with all the setbacks. So you can't get down Grandview, you can't get down the Academy Extension, you can't get out of Guyon, because people are parked illegally.
But I mean, I have to tell you, you're right. There's no sidewalk on that street. It's very concerning. And that you pick up a picture and you can see firsthand on
Yeah,
there.
anybody can do
It's upsetting. And I
I
don't
don't
know
think
what
you
we
have
can
the
do, but we
recourse.
need to do something.
Yeah, there's no recourse.
No.
It doesn't look like there's a lot of options if you're stuck with 2 cars going in opposite directions. And as also
But those
having children, and
probably
that
cars-
would be,
Are cars parked illegally?
oh, yeah. I mean,
So-
one of them's almost out onto Bedford Road, and they're
I
just
mean,
sitting there
there's no
chatting.
parking on one side of the street for a reason, because you can't get 2 cars coming down.
Well, look, based on this, you'd have a hard time fitting 2 cars.
Right, well,
Ain't nothing
you
of parking
can't. So
there.
if they're parked illegally, you know,
So, obviously, there are all kinds of issues, as Ally pointed out, about the idea of some significant change on the street, as well as a capital investment cost associated with a sidewalk. Am I correct in hearing that the neighborhood in general is by no means in agreement about, you know, the long-term goal of a sidewalk? Is that strong disagreement, people on all sides of that issue?
I don't think there's room for a sidewalk anyway.
Well, we'd have to go on the
You'd
property.
have
Not without
to take
moving
away the
a lot.
I mean, I
right
don't know what the right-of-way is there.
You'd have to cut back your property significantly. Yeah.
And is the, I mean, part of the reason the problem is more severe is that the enrollment is higher and that the total employment at BRS is higher than it was some years back. Is that fair to say?
I don't think the employment,
The block was teeming with kids years ago.
No, I know, but BRS has more employees than it
no, it
has had.
doesn't.
Certainly, it has more than it had 10 years ago. I mean,
I don't know.
10 years, well, not anymore
about
than
that.
it did when the school was first built. I don't believe we have
I don't-
I mean, one thing I noticed, and I mean, there's no statistic on it, but I noticed very, very, very young children have cell phones, and parents are on cell phones when they're driving, and that cell phone has become sort of a babysitter for meetups. You know, so instead of people parking and doing that, there's a lot of people driving, coordinating, I'll pick you up here, I'll pick you up there. There just seems to be an awful lot of that going on, and kids running around. That, you know, instead of parking and going to get them, yeah, walk to the corner, I'll get you there. And it just seems like there's so much more traffic than when my kids were there. You know, and I don't have any statistics on that, and everyone has a huge car,
Yeah.
me included. But, you know, you put a big Suburban on that
Well,
corner,
yeah,
and
there's- one on the end here is an SUV, and it's,
Okay, did anyone else want to add to that? We have a bunch of letters and, you know, clear record that there is split opinion about this, but also clear record that there's a significant issue here. So I think we're going to have to sit down with the police chief. First off, as all of us have mentioned, we're going to have to reinforce the enforcement process, which, you know, I can't promise you that that's going to happen all the time, but it needs to happen often enough that people are fearful that if they violate the rules, they're going to get dinged for it.
But also to reiterate, we can't issue permits, special permits, particularly to employees of the school. I mean, that's just not an option, so I don't want anybody to think that we're going to be able to do that. We can't do that for anybody. If you can park on the street, anybody can park on the street. We can't, it's all kind of all or nothing. You know, maybe we could do something like Steve mentioned about coming in, but that is not on the table. Just can't.
and there's a commonality, if I understood both folks that pro and contra, that greater enforcement would be desired anyway, right? Regardless of whether you want it this way or that way, but everybody agrees that greater enforcement is desired, right?
And better signage.
And
Better
better
signage, yeah. And
That-
the cones apparently seem to help. I mean, they need visual displays in order
I mean,
to.
could we get the crossing guard and maybe put some cones out when he goes on duty? You know, the guy that's on the Romer corner? You know, have that kind of be part of
Academy
his,
corner.
The
Academy
academy
corner.
corner.
I mean,
Yeah.
academy corner,
Yeah.
you know, I mean,
I'll talk to the chief about
Yeah.
that.
because if they help, why not? I
Clearly.
mean,
Something needs to be done there.
Under the sort of category of unintended consequences, once we get the chief and the safety board involved, and I'm particularly disturbed because I did not understand this to be a safety
Yeah.
issue relative to snow and emergency vehicles. But if indeed that turns out to be the case, you may end up with no parking at all on that street during the winter anyway.
It's an access issue, right?
And so I don't know how much of a problem it is. First I heard about it tonight, about refuge trucks not being able to get down there, whatever. And I don't know the degree to which that happens or often it happens,
Patty,
but
if we could find that out, how many times they could not pick
but
up
that's
garbage on that street.
that's potentially concerning relative to emergency vehicles, if indeed that's the case. So
There would be a report if we could find out how many times they couldn't pick up garbage or recycling on that
it's a
street.
huge fire issue.
And if the fire department had ever had a problem with that, I mean, like, you said you got an ambulance to your
I
house?
had an ambulance in a blizzard, but a
In-
fire truck's bigger than an ambulance.
But it made it through.
The ambulance did, yeah.
You have,
If it was a blizzard, there wouldn't have been school cars on the street anyway.
well,
It's the cars parked on the street. After the snow.
Right.
Right. I mean, it's a problem everywhere with the snow, particularly after winter we had, but on a street like yours, it's going to be exacerbated.
You can test it too, so.
Well, so
Okay.
clearly there's no magic wand
No.
of any sort, and
But
there's
I-
no solution that will satisfy everybody.
I will say that on some of the narrower streets in this winter, there was significant issues with all the streets got smaller by a significant amount. My street was so small.
Right.
And when they came through on that second to last storm, I don't know, they all were running in together. Our crews tried to widen the streets because they knew they were going to be plowing back more, and then they were, loosening up big boulders because it was all ice. And then the boulders were going in people's driveways, which is a whole other problem. But it was the narrowing of our streets was a significant issue this winter. I mean, it was without a doubt on every street. I live in a cul-de-sac. I had that problem too. I also worry about people that leave their cars on the street when we all have restricted parking in the winter. You can't leave your car on the street.
is there an issue during the fall when the leaves are down? Do you have leaves get pushed out to the road and it narrows the road because cars are forced to park
Good.
further into the road? That, as it happens on Ashland, I know it happens there a lot, so. Okay, I'm just curious.
Have a big pile forms in the circle part.
In the circle part.
Is that okay?
In the back?
We lose like a parking spot. Right.
Gotcha.
Okay.
So the issues at turning around in the cul-de-sac are not parking issues, they're just driver behavior issues.
In space, right?
Can't-
Just space.
I said, you can't regulate stupidity. What idiot goes up there and swings around the cul-de-sac with it?
And they all do it. Either they're turning around in somebody's
Right, well,
driveway.
there's nowhere to
or
go.
Turning around quickly. The fact that we keep losing our dead end sign. Right, well, not knowing it's a dead end.
Oh, because
Yeah,
they're
although that-
stealing it?
I mean, but the parents obviously know it's a dead end. I mean,
Yeah,
the school drop-off, right.
But we have to replace the sign.
No doubt.
We
And-
have to,
and
yeah.
no
that's
outlet
just-
may be
No
the answer.
outlet.
But people know it.
Yeah, that's
It's
not
not
going
a
to change
secret.
this at all.
Right.
You know, it's not
just
like
gonna-
these are new people coming every day.
So
No, it's
bad.
the same people.
Yeah.
I mean, we have pictures, there's the same cars every day.
Yeah.
Right, I mean, people choose their habit and they establish that arrangement with their kid or whatever, and, that's what they do.
I used
got
to be
your
all
linebreak
vans
crowd, you got
parked
your
on that
Sutton,
street 23 years ago. There was all the vans.
That's what I was thinking. They're not all the way.
I'll never
up
forget
the
Andy
orchard
Mancusi
or
sat in my
Oh,
van
may not be
thinking
at
it
the
was
same
his
time,
van.
same time.
And he came out and I was
No,
like, what are you doing?
Oh, I understand. It may not be the same time.
All right. You
Oh, wait,
need to come back to
I need to.
you need to come back to the podium so people can hear at home. Sorry to drag you out, but otherwise,
okay.
they will lose the benefit of your comment.
Do I have to state my name again?
No,
No,
you
no,
don't.
no.
Okay. If you have any doubts about whether our street, during the day, we can deal with parents, coming to work at the school, volunteer, visit their child's classroom, go to a play, that's fine. It's just the dismissal is so unsafe. If you have any doubts about how unsafe it is, about the traffic, jockeying, please visit our street at 5 after 3, and you
I
will
will,
see
yes.
it's a nightmare. And the one letter that you received is from someone who lives on the corner, and he has never been down the street to see what it's like, to know how unsafe it is.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments?
Go
No,
ahead.
feel free.
Yeah, go on up.
Yeah.
So I have some information on that.
Okay, I guess. Hi, Julianne Zanis, 26 Walnut Street.
I'm sorry, could you just make that a little louder, please?
Julianne Zanis, 26 Walnut Street, also BRS employee, and I was here about a year or so ago.
Yes.
About the same thing. My only thing, you guys answered a lot of the discussion was brought up with some of the points, but I believe the school is supposed to be doing a survey about dismissal time, so that would be something interesting. But I was also, and I know it came up already, I was also going to suggest that maybe you do open a conversation with the district, like someone here mentioned just a little while ago, and talk to parents, send the message out so that maybe parents can meet their kids. Kids can walk down the sidewalks a little further. We are a walking district. I mean, I walked from.
And could the dismissal be staggered more than it is?
It probably could be. I mean, that's something that you'd have to discuss, that you could
Right.
have that conversation with the district. But I do feel that a lot of, as is, possible, parents want to come, they want to congregate, hang out, meet up with their friends. But if it's causing such distress, and stress on the streets and the drop off and the pickup and all of that, maybe many of them, especially some of the older kids, can just meet their parents, on Clark Street if that's the empty street, or further down. And, theoretically, I understand that there's parking for us further down Manville. However, that's probably only open because many of my colleagues, and I moved from Guyon, where I was illegal every day, to Sutton after they started building that house on the corner. If everyone who works in our building parked legally every day and not on those surrounding streets, then you would probably have us parked down all the way to 117.
Yep.
And that would be the problem. But right now, we are kind of, all over the place illegal. So if that were to be enforced, then we would be using and probably beyond. But
Do you know, I don't know if you know the answer to this, but how many students are allowed to park at the high school versus employees? So is there student parking at the high school?
Oh, there's totally
So
student parking.
If that was changed, would that relieve some of the teacher parking? I'm just curious because.
that came up.
18 spots.
Okay.
Oh,
There's
18, that's it.
designated 18 spots, and you have to fill out an application, and you have to
have to
live
be a senior,
over
you have to
a
leave-
mile.
But the
and it
reality
doesn't
is there are
matter.
18 spots that students have that it could be assigned to teachers.
To
That would
teachers.
be 18 less cars wherever.
Illegally parked, I guess.
And
Well,
would
Or
BRS
wherever.
teachers
Yeah, but you
avail
guys
themselves
would
of
park
that?
there.
I'm sorry?
Do you think BRS employees would avail themselves of those 18 spots if they were available? And obviously, it's a school district issue, not ours. but-
Right.
Yeah,
I'm just
not
curious.
sure.
Park
I
on
mean, I'm
Manville.
not sure. I don't know. You'd have to do a survey or poll them. You do, years and years ago, we did shuttle.
Yeah,
They
when
did
the
shuttle
school was
us
being
back and
built.
forth.
But
Is it,
you see, this is the school, you're right. It's partially a school district problem because
Yeah.
they built no parking, and it
Right.
constantly comes back to us. I
Right.
mean, you've been in front of us more than one time and discussing the same issue. And I would like it for the school to be a little bit more proactive on these things and come up with some creative solutions. In fact, one of the school board members wrote us a letter because she parks on Sutton Place. So, and she says that things aren't enforced, but, maybe she could take a bit of a proactive angle with it as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah, I mean, for all of the things you discussed about cones and all of that kind of stuff, and great, all for it, great. But I do think maybe if you communicate with the district, find out what's going on with that survey. I hear they have a dismissal survey going on. And also, having that conversation saying, maybe it is, maybe you can rework or stagger your pickup times or something like that to alleviate
Right.
some of
That'd be
it
good.
might help.
Absolutely.
So,
You just happen to have the president of the school board behind the camera.
Trying to hide back there.
He's trying to hide, but,
Your problem is not uncommon to most businesses in this town where their employees do not have places to park. And employers have purchased permits, and they have gone above and beyond to do that. So, I think this is going to have to be a partnership. Like I said, we can't issue permits for
Right.
teachers to park on Sutton. It's never going to happen.
Right.
So some other solution needs to come up. If it ends up that the resolution is that we can't have parking there. On that particular street.
right,
So.
and, most of us will go and move on to the next street,
Right.
which I guess in my
But
case
if it has a sidewalk, to be honest, it would be better than
It'd be
that.
better.
The fact that they don't have a sidewalk is tough.
Yeah.
It's
That
frightening.
changes it. It's a little bit of a different issue then, right?
I live up on 117, and where my home is, there's a sidewalk, but if you continue down, there isn't. I will not walk down there.
Right.
I will not do it. So, I don't have to do it every day, but I can sympathize with, like, for example, the people who live down past Pierce. They don't want their kids on that road. So, I have to say, I empathize with you all wanting to park, but, 16 little kids on a street that's, looks like Times Square at 3 o'clock is
Yeah.
concerning.
I too have seen the cars that are sticking out
Yeah.
practically too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, well, thank you for your consideration. I do hope, I like the idea of maybe striking up that conversation with the district and trying to
Yeah,
get
we
them.
certainly should. Obviously, anytime there can be more parking available for teachers somewhere else, that would be great. Although it sounds as though the core of the problem is not the teachers,
No.
it's the parents. And if there were more spaces on Sutton vacated by teachers who parked elsewhere, that you'd likely have that many more parents
Right.
who saw the
Taking those-
opportunity.
But certainly, if we have to take an aggressive approach to
Right.
this, we would like to have some sort of resolution, too, to make it not uncomfortable for everyone who has enjoyed certain,
well,
you
a
know,
homeowner
certain
being able
things.
to park in front of their street.
yeah,
Well,
yes.
that's, yeah.
But as I said, too bad Brian's not here, because it has really worked on Romer. He will tell you that. It did.
That's what they
And it took a little bit of time for them to get used to it, but,
It works.
yeah.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
And there's sidewalks on both sides.
Yeah.
My name is Ben Sarabin. I wasn't going to talk, but I just wanted to point out a couple. It was my mom who actually got hit. I just wanted to point out she actually was hit in the across from where parking is allowed. So it wasn't really the end of the street. The end of the street is a separate situation that we have, but she was her feet were on the grass, and she was right after where you're allowed to park. I don't know if you have the picture, but right where the cars are start to allow to park, it was like one car in. So, and she was my 6-year-old. So it's very upsetting.
And was the car turning around or what?
Oh, so the car, it was a grandparent and that was doing a pickup at BRS. So she had driven down and she couldn't find parking. So then she left to go find another parking area. So, and it was a hit and run, and the police, found the person, so that's good. But, it's a very, very narrow street. That's the biggest issue. And we tell the kids, always walk on the grass. You have this double-edged thing where it's like, it's fine. It's like, some of the people put pesticides on their grass, and they have a little sign, like, kids don't walk on it within 24 hours. And so I had to, point out to my kids, we cut through, because I didn't want, the kids walking on the grass. So you have this dilemma. It's like, do you go on that side of the street, which is a short period of time when they did that, or do you try to, hide in between the cars? So it's a very bad thing. I definitely recommend that you come and see it.
I'm just curious, because I am going to go and see it. Does
Sure.
anybody have, stones or anything? There's a
Yes.
couple
Yes.
houses so
Yes.
that you can't turn.
There's a lot.
Does it work? Does it work?
Push
They
back.
go right on. Okay.
Well, the stones are where you're not allowed to park at the.
Right, no, but I just,
Yeah. And
I
they
mean-
push the people, I remember a car, one of those stones getting caught under a car there.
Okay.
Yeah, no, people have put,
No, I'm going to come out.
Yeah.
I'm going to come out and look.
yeah, no, people have put stones on both sides.
Yeah.
Just because what's happening is when people park, they start parking on people's grass.
Sure.
You need
So-
those one-way knives that Hertz has at the airport.
Yeah, pots of tires.
Well, actually, that grass is part of the right-of-way.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
no, I mean, I had gotten, Patty was very helpful, and she'd given me one of the tax maps, and the street, the right-of-way it's the same size as Academy. So it's a very wide street, it's just, it hasn't been paved out. And we don't,
Right.
I mean, we're not recommending that, there's a lot of trees on there, so it's kind of like,
Right, they would have to be cut, it's probably like 15 feet on both sides.
I'm not sure of the exact numbers. Yeah, I mean,
They
it's
would
like.
make it like
Yeah, so, I mean, sidewalks, while they're
Really cut into
great,
your
it would
lawns.
really change the character. So, I mean, really, the only thing that I believe, and I don't think enforcement is enough, because it really just solves the end, and really, it's not just the end that has the problem, it's when the cars meet. Once they start driving down and then a car's coming the other way, what do you do? And that's really the issue. So, that's all I wanted to point out.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other commentators? All right, so let me suggest that we will close the public hearing, but keep the written record open for another week in case anyone who's watching or anyone who couldn't come tonight wants to weigh in by letter or email, just to make sure that they're on the record. And at the same time, we will circle back in all the ways we talked about tonight. So is there a...
Just procedurally, if it closes, we just have to reopen it, right?
No, we're going to close the public hearing.
We're not
So
going to vote on anything, though, not even
No, but
for 2 weeks.
the closing has, we've closed it, but kept the record open so people can still comment.
No, but I mean, how do we work in getting the chiefs and everybody else who's...
We'll have to do that in a work
A
session, and
work
we'll
session
put that on
in
the
weeks to
agenda, so
come,
anyone who
yeah.
wants to come to that is welcome to do so.
So it won't be part of the public hearing?
No.
I mean, I think we've noticed the public hearing. People who wanted to be heard have been heard. We've received a lot of notes and letters, and provide another week for
Right,
people
I
to do
just
it.
want to make clear
Yeah.
that typically after a public hearing, we vote at some point in the near future, once we close it. And this isn't going to happen in this case. We've heard you, we're closing it, and who knows when it's going to be picked up again, but...
Well, it's going to be picked up again to address these issues soon. We're not going to delay
Well,
that, but I don't know. how
There's a
long it
lot of
takes to do
issues
Yeah,
that
there's
have
certainly a
been
lot of issues.
addressed, so...
I just wanted to bring up one more point.
Just talking to Mike, Ann.
Okay. I'm also part of a committee at Bedford Road School. We just sent out a dismissal survey. So we're busy right now gathering all the information we've received, but some of the things we're talking about are a staggered dismissal, fourth grade dismissing from the bottom of the hill instead of the top of the hill.
How does it work right now? Kindergarten is separate, right?
Well, right now, everybody gets dismissed from the front of the building.
Right.
It's from the playground area.
But what's the timing?
At the same time.
Everybody?
Yes.
Kindergarten too?
We have lineup spots now, and that's supposedly there to make it easier, but not
Doesn't
really.
always work.
Yeah.
So.
But the kindergartners.
the kindergartners-
dismiss through their doors.
Dismissed through the doors of their classrooms.
Which some of
And-
them are on the side.
And then the fourth grade is in one area, the third grade is in one area, and so on. But we are talking about some ideas of dismissing the fourth graders, for example, at the back of the building, so that they would be exiting from Manville, and maybe another class dismissing from, a different exit than the others. So these are all ideas we're considering. And so far, we have about 59 responses from parents that answered the survey. So we are busy meeting and, discussing these
But-
issues
and would it be an option
presently.
conceivably, obviously it's above our pay grade, but to stagger them in time, maybe 10 minutes?
Well, that's the problem when you have a kid in fourth grade.
And a kid in
Right.
second grade, you
Right,
have
more than
to,
one kid to
Yeah.
pick up.
right, and then you have siblings being able to pick
Right.
up siblings, but
Right.
then everyone else being on a 5 or 10-minute
Right.
staggered.
And
But
there are
these
lots
are
of
all,
those, lots of
all
parents in that
ideas.
circumstance, right?
Yeah.
Yes, and so these ideas are all being considered right now, because it is a huge issue with all of our streets in close proximity to the school. So.
And there are what, 600 kids, give or take?
There's about, I think it's in the low 600s.
Right.
Now, somebody was asking before about it, is that a larger number? Not really, not really. It's been, I think Shane might know better than myself, but I think it's not, it's not different.
Right.
It's in the same ballpark. But just so that you know that it is in discussion, and we are listening to what the parents have to say and considering different options to make it easier to pick up your children in different spots, perhaps.
The only way you can stagger, well, no, you couldn't. I was going to say if you did the pickup in the car with Academy, but then that wouldn't help the 2 children in the car, two in a family.
But there are more children, in my opinion, there are more children dismissing and walking 2 or 3 blocks to meet their
agree.
parents
Yeah.
than ever
I
before.
agree.
So that's a good thing. You know, every adult is not coming to the school, and it seems to be there's a lot more carpooling as well. But these are all options and things that we've been discussing with the parents through our surveys. Just so you know.
Thank you.
Look
Much
forward to the
appreciated.
results.
And, to that point, all of us on all sides of the issue are aware of how difficult it is for everybody, trying to pick up your kid, trying to find a place to park for work, trying to get through the Manville and Bedford Road corridor at the time of school drop-off or school pickup. Just a very, very tight environment. One of the blessings of village life is that things are so close to one another, and it's also one of the curses. So that part of it obviously is something I think everybody's sympathetic to, and we're just trying to balance all these issues and appreciate everybody's thoughtful commentary on all sides of the issue. So could I have a...
The only thing I'll say about that is, and I don't disagree with you, except that the solution is sometimes just a half a block away, and people choose not to want to walk that half a block. So
I agree.
it's not. That's where I find myself impatient at times, especially on National Avenue, where I encounter it every day. And then I drive down literally a half a block and it's wide open, yet people are crammed into those spots with their car out in the Bedford Road nearly every day. And, it's hard to be sympathetic to that sort of, that little pedestrian utopiaville that you painted there for a second, knowing that, the reality is a half a block.
I think my last word was
Well, no, what's
curse.
crazy is that someone is driving to
Let's not
BRS who
curse,
lives on
but-
Sunnyside.
That's,
I mean, that's more maddening to
Yeah,
me. Is
so-
you have people who live on Great Oak driving to pick their kid up.
Yeah.
So,
and I just to add in my
So-
2 cents there, I think that the situation, we want to make sure we don't get into a situation where on this street, because of its unique characteristics, somebody gets
killed.
hurt. I mean, not that your mother was not, I don't mean to insinuate that it's not her, but I mean, a kid is killed, somebody is severely hurt, another person is hurt, I mean,
She was severely hurt. Like,
I'm
the
sorry.
ambulance had to respond. She'd have broken tibia, broken fibula. Like,
and she was on the grass.
Yeah, she was on the ground.
So this,
This was severe. This is not like...
right.
Right.
I didn't mean to minimize it. I mean, what I mean is there is a, all of this, stop talking.
We don't want a kid dead.
Right, I mean, all of this stuff about the parking and people have to walk and half a block away and all that's great, but there is a bigger issue here
Right.
with this particular road that I think transcends a lot of that stuff. That's what I'm trying to say.
Good point.
Okay, so is there a motion to close the public hearing, but to keep the written record open for letters and emails for another week through Monday, May 5?
So moved.
Sure.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so plan of attack is this. Again, the public hearing is closed now. Written record is open. If anybody on any side of the issue feels they haven't had a chance to weigh in, shoot Patty an email, Judy, me, whatever. We'll get it part of the public record and make sure everybody sees it. We'll get together with the school district and chat about all that they're doing. Thank you, Ann, for that preview of some of the things going on. Also talk to the police chief about enforcement as well as his view of all of these things. Revisit the question of the cones, those all being things that could happen right away while we revisit the bigger picture. Thank you all.
Thank you.
You're welcome to stay when we go through all these resolutions.
It's fun.
Except I am not, I thought I sent this out to everybody,
Okay.
but that's it.
Okay, that's,
Thank you.
thank you.
We'll give it to Judy,
Yeah,
please.
we'll take a look at it and then
Thank
give it
you.
to Judy.
Well, she said she emailed it to you, Patty.
I don't know if she got it though. No, she said she's not
That's okay.
tech savvy. Who knows if she
I know,
did.
but I told her to rewrite it because she didn't, Patty said she didn't get it, she sent it.
Okay.
Last night.
All right, so
Okay.
the next order of business for us is, do I have a motion to open the public hearing on the subject of a local law pursuant to Subdivision 5 of General Municipal Law Section 3-C to override the property tax cap for the coming fiscal year 2014-2015?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So we have opened a public hearing on the on a proposal to pass a local law, which is the process we're required to go through if we intend to override the property tax cap, which is widely known as the 2% cap. It's a much more complicated story than that, involving allowing us to increase the property tax levy. That is the amount of money that we raise from property taxes by a maximum of 2% or the rate of inflation, whichever is lower, and further complicated by a number of other elements, including what's included and what's not, and pension increases included to a certain degree, et cetera, Long story short, Patty, can you just remind everyone the way the dynamics of that work this year? We could increase the levy by, what, $108,000?
$106,000 would be the benchmark. Anything over that in terms of additional tax levies would result in an override of the cap. So that was our
And
general
that the cap
fund.
isn't, we should, set forth right now, the cap isn't 2% anymore this year.
The cap was set at 1.48% of last year's levy,
Right.
but it still amounts to $106,000 in terms of new dollars that could be raised in a budget from that revenue source from property taxes.
Which means $106,000 towards the increase in,
Now $13 million budget.
right, in our benefits.
Well,
And
yes, I mean,
so we would only be able to spend $106,000 on all of the increases, pension costs, well.
and assuming all your other revenues
all
were
the other-
stable,
right.
Right.
which they're not
Assuming everything else
necessarily
stays the
stable.
same.
Right.
So, just to put that in perspective, the village expenditures over the past several years have been very nearly level. And indeed, absent some of the increases that have arrived at our desk through the state pension and the like over the last several years, although this year did not have a significant increase, it might even be that our expenses would have been completely flat or pretty close to. So, I mean, the problem we confront and the reason we have proposed the discussion about breaking the tax cap is severalfold, one of which is essentially what the tax cap requires is that that we find some way to knock money out of the budget every year. That obviously is a high goal, and it's a goal that this board and the boards that preceded it have had for a long time. We're not in the circumstance that much bigger governments are, where we can say, well, we're going to get rid of whatever, the Division of Culture and Tourism, because that could go, because we never had any of that stuff. And we've gone through this budget, all of us collectively, and those who came before us, on a line-by-line basis. And honestly, I have myself sat with a number of people in the community who have been seeking lower taxes, as all of us are seeking, and said, help me with this, let's go through this line by line and find something to get rid of. And the results of that have, I think, led most of the people who I've shared that process with to arrive at the same conclusion most of us have, which is that although we are aggressively looking for savings wherever we can, we still need to be able to deliver the services that you require. Your trash needs to be picked up, someone needs to come when you call 911, we need to pave the streets, and when it snows, we need to plow. Add to that the kinds of services that are provided that might be described as a quality of life things, like providing parks and playing fields and rec programs, are in a number of significant ways offset by user fees, but are also part of the business of living in a civic community. And so we're not really in the circumstance where we have an awful lot of flexibility. And when we're allowed to increase our expenditures or our tax levy by only $108,000, that is, as you can imagine, consumed by all kinds of things over which we have no control, including insurance and health benefits and all of that, that have been skyrocketing for all of us in every setting for a long period of time.
Salt. Overtime.
So,
I'd just like to add the complication of all that. We, as an example, we looked at, and don't ring the phone. I know it'll be breaching heresy, but we actually looked at how much money could we save by eliminating leaf pickup and have people bag leaves themselves. And the truth is, you don't save much because we use the same people to plow the roads and to fill potholes and to work on the water mains, and we're just using them in a bit different capacity. And the only way to really truly save significant money in the village is to reduce the number of people who actually work for the village. And to do that becomes very difficult when you consider, and I've been liaison to the DPW for a number of years, that those folks all wear a number of different hats, not the least being a number of them are volunteer fire folks who respond in the middle of the day when most of the volunteers are at work. And you start to look at, eliminating or reducing workforce, and a whole lot of other programs start to fall. And so it is an incredibly complicated and hard task to save significant amounts of money unless you're willing to absolutely do away with services that I think this village has come to expect, and which most people recognize as being valuable to not only themselves but also the home values and the like. So not that we're not above back testing and pushing on some of these to make sure we completely understand them and appreciate the ramifications of maybe acting or looking at something different. But it is it is a tight it's a tight budget. In many ways, not just by the numbers, but by the fact that a lot of our employees in this village wear a lot of different hats, and you just can't look at eliminating a position without watching the ripple effect go out throughout the village.
the other piece of that, just to follow on to Jonathan's points, is that in a winter like the one we've just had, or in a condition like Sandy a year and a half ago, those are moments you can't get enough warm bodies to fill not only just quality of life issues, but life safety issues. So, there may be an occasion when you could say on a sunny day in August that perhaps you could cut your DPW force. Fast forward to the aftermath of a hurricane or an unexpected water break, a water main break, or a severe winter, and you start to recognize that we cannot and ought not put any of us in the position where we don't have any flex at all in the system. And I would say there's no doubt in the years I've been on the board that we have reduced the amount of flex in the system already. So we've had, as I think those of you who follow this for a long time, a number of discussions in quite recent years, including an extended discussion with the county about the possibility of outsourcing our police force to a county contract. The result of hours and hours and hours of effort over a long period of time was that we received no proposal from the county, and that issue is now dead. Not because of lack of extraordinary due diligence on the part of the village, because we all felt, those of us on the board at the time, that it was our responsibility to go down every possible route we could to see what our options were. Interesting point about that is that in the most optimistic of all scenarios, we might have saved perhaps $800,000 a year if that had been possible to pull off, consolidating the police force. And obviously that's very significant money, but I want to put it in context to suggest that that might have saved the average homeowner something like $300 a year, maybe even a little less than that after taxes. So I don't mean to suggest that saving $300 a year is anything less than a high goal, because it is. But what I think is important to underscore is that the cost of employing municipal staff members in the year 2014 in Westchester County in New York State is to a large extent outside our control because of the pay scales and the benefit systems that exist. Pleasantville has, for the most part, been kind of in the middle of the pack in terms of our general salary scales. And we have had significant negotiations with our police union and also our CSEA employees, the union that represents our non-uniformed employees. And I think we've had good, productive exchange and ended up with results that were respected by all as a significant effort. But what I do think is clear, certainly after the years I've spent doing this, is that there aren't any magic wands that are going to change this in a fundamental way. Our best and highest hope is going to be to increase the tax base a bit. We have benefited from that somewhat this year because our tax base increased by a little over $1 million on a total assessed value now of 112 million something. And that's very good news, because when the taxable assessed value goes up, the amount every individual homeowner pays goes down a little bit. That will also manifest itself in some fairly significant benefits to the village at the point at which some of the projects we've been discussing come online, chief among them the Toll Brothers residential project for 68 units at the former Baker property site on Washington Avenue. That will be 68 new townhomes that are fee simple ownership, same as a single family home, and they'll be sharing the tax burden with all the rest of us without a particularly significant increase in our overall cost of servicing. So that kind of thing, which obviously has to be done thoughtfully and carefully to create Pleasantville scaled development, is also an imperative. So we have been looking with some care at the long-term future, and there are a number of very positive things in the offing, including the fact that we have revived to some extent the tax base and are looking at some other things that will come along as well. And at the same time, when we come to the fiscal year 2018 and beyond, we start to retire some debt. It's impossible to predict how much new debt will be required. Sewer projects, water tank projects, the litany of things that need to be kept in good shape in order to serve the village. So all of that has led us to the thought that this may be an appropriate year for us to consider increasing our tax levy and breaking the 2% tax cap. The other piece of that is of an element in the description is that, as many of you may have read, Governor Cuomo has proposed what he calls a tax freeze. It's not actually a tax freeze, but it is a mechanism by which homeowners would receive a check from the state based on the hypothetical possibility that all of the taxing entities in that community stayed within the tax cap. The state would refund to a homeowner the difference between the tax bill of that year and the tax bill of the year before. So whatever one thinks of that on any side of the issue about state policy, it is what it is, and obviously it's a benefit that we would like to preserve for residents if we can. And as a result, because in our case, unlike the school district case, it's not this budget upon which that is based. If we believe there is a significant likelihood that we need to break the tax cap now or next year, but not both, we benefit the community by doing it now.
I only want to make one clarification, because whenever you start to reduce a tax or a decrease or increase in revenue or a decrease in expenses to a per home, we're never going to do anything so large it's going to make such a significant difference when you do that. And I don't, so if you follow that logic, you'd almost never do anything, because there's anything that ever rises to the level of total significance, as Peter just said. $800,000 becomes $300 a home. I mean, it doesn't sound that significant, and so it becomes an easy excuse not to do anything, and that's not the way I look at it, certainly. I don't think it's the way anybody on the board looks at it, but you gotta just be careful about.
You measure it against quality of life issues. And
Correct.
That's really the way we have to always look at the budget as well, is that we're supplying services, and we're supplying quality services, and we're supplying up to an expectation that people have come to know. And that could be our recreation programs, our fields, our pool, our other areas where those add to your quality of life. And that is the only way you can really break it down like that, to see, all right, to maintain my quality of life, it's going to cost me this much money. Maybe you could look at it that way. But also to the point that when you talk about quality, we often, when you work with a budget, people are always saying, cut this, cut these employees. You picked on the DPW there a little bit too much. We get.
I just use it as an example.
We get it. We get it. It's not just the DPW. I don't want the DPW guys going crazy, but you got to look at. We have quality people here in the village. We have quality department heads. We have quality employees, and yeah, we're a lean, mean working machine. But it took a lot of work to get to that point. Kudos to our village administrator, Patty Dwyer. But we have a quality staff, and they are all working hard on this every budget and delivering services that are of the quality that everybody expects. And that's the one thing you will never compromise in a budget. That's what we're here for. We're here to supply services. Otherwise, nobody needs us.
We refinanced a significant amount of debt too, and I think it's worth noting that one of the feedback that we got, not surprisingly, from Moody's was that we're in good financial shape. They reaffirmed our AA- rating, but they are very sensitive to the fiscal condition of towns and villages, and one of the things that they're keying in on more and more is fund balance, and one of the things
tax base.
And the tax base, and one of the things that we want to make sure that because we are always going to be a borrower for the near future, that if possible, prudence dictates that you try to keep your credit rating as good as you can have it, and it results in affording us the luxury of having to refinance or having had refinanced our bonds at lower rates and taking advantage of these low interest rates. So, and those are the types of financial flexibility that we'd like to preserve, and that may indeed at times run afoul of the the arbitrariness of a tax cap. But I'm not going to let that stand. A tax cap that's arbitrary and seemingly not level in terms of the pressures it puts on us versus the pressure it puts on the legislator that imposed it, affect what I feel is prudent to do for the village of Pleasantville from a fiscal policy standpoint. So,
and just to be clear, what's under discussion here and the resolution that we'll propose later in the evening presages a tax rate increase of 2.87%. So that's what's on the table, and that's why we're having this discussion now, because in order to do that, we need to pass a local law that permits us to exceed the tax cap.
Yeah, so I'd open the hearing for any comments.
Right.
okay.
So, any comment at all? 769-1677.
You want to comment on your own budget, Mary?
All right, anybody else have anything to add to that endless conversation? All right, is there a motion to close the public hearing on the local law to override the property tax cap?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Public hearing is closed. The right to the resolutions, I guess. 65, pre-check register. Colleen.
Resolved that pre-check register dated April 18, 2014, covering pre-check numbers 77663 through 77773 have been reviewed and they are hereby approved as listed below. Coming from the general fund, the special purpose fund, the water fund, the capital fund, the refuse fund, pool fund, trust and agency fund, totaling $441,023.23.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Patty, this Axstar DPW roof,
Yeah.
what is that?
That is the final payment on a project that got closed out about 3 years ago. Public Works Department had some roof repair done. We awarded the project to a company named DME because of some of their, I guess, trouble getting bonding. We were required to issue two-party checks, one to the bonding agent and one to them whenever we had to pay them. Their project, even though it was completed several years ago to the satisfaction of our architect, a fellow named Donald McDonald, if you remember that,
Yes, I
going
do.
back, they could not supply us with manifests for some of the waste that was disposed at the time, so we held up final payment. We had done some investigatory work as to where that waste was hauled. We found out it was hauled to a waste disposal site, but we still could not get the paperwork produced. Ran this by Joel Sachs, our attorney. We ended up getting a hold harmless agreement and an indemnification from the contractor in order to release final payment. So that's basically where we are. You haven't seen a payment to them in many years, probably
Yes,
2.5, 3
Was
years.
this the roof repair prior to the solar
In
panels?
advance of the solar installation, yeah, if you remember that.
So does that
work.
end our relationship with that company then, or we're done? That is, that
It
contract
does,
is...
provided that nobody comes back and asks us for a waste manifest that we, can't seem to find. And Joel just said it is what it is, I mean, we need
So we've done
to
everything we
close
can
our
do.
books. The work was performed, so we need to pay them for it.
Okay. Any other questions?
I had one and I lost it.
Sorry about that, but that was a long,
all right.
but
Yeah.
I'm glad you picked that up, thank you.
I lost it.
All right. You want a hot for it, or?
No, it's okay.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion approved. 66, Mickey.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees has reviewed the minutes of the meeting held on March 10th, March 24th, and March 31st, 2014, and they are hereby approved.
Is there a second?
Second.
These include the description of the extended discussions about benchmark and the public hearing. I'm going to wear out your keyboard,
Nice job.
Judy.
Nice job on
Yeah,
those
nice
minutes.
job, Judy.
Yes.
I owe you a couple more. I owe you the budget hearing and
Right. So, any comments or corrections?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion approved. Jonathan, 67.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby appoints Marcy Kraus to the Library Board effective April 28, 2014, for a 5-year term to expire December 2019.
Is there a second?
Second?
Two people to thank here. One, Marcy Krause for stepping up to be willing to join the board. And secondly, to Chris Campriello, who is retiring from her role on the library board after many years of dedicated service. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. 68.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves closing the Cooley Municipal Parking Lot from June 11th through June 15th, 2014, for use by the Jacob Burns Film Center for a special event.
Is there a second?
Second.
So the Burns is holding its annual benefit event on Saturday, June 14, and this arrangement requires them to pay us the value of the parking. Yes.
And any other costs.
But
we
how
have.
did it get to 5 days?
Sorry?
Yeah.
How did it get to 5 days?
Yeah, that's
We were at 3.
Yeah.
Wednesday through Sunday.
It was never Wednesday through
was
Sunday.
They came in and asked for that, if you remember.
That was the discussion when we met with Dominic.
I remember
Right.
it being
I have my little notes from it. I
Three-
gave it to
Well,
Judy.
so-
This is-
or
Ju-
3
Judy-
full days, I think.
I mean, we are confident we can accommodate all the permit parkers during that time period
They have to go into the lot behind the,
Yeah, well,
because Lamb Design has agreed to make their lot available for that purpose.
No, they have to go to be in the Manville lot.
Manville lot.
Right, but Lamb Design, at the time that we met with the Burns, he also indicated that Lamb Design would make some spaces available for the Burns permit parkers who currently have permits
well, that's good.
in
Oh,
that lot.
okay.
That'll-
I was
that will
not
help.
aware of that.
So that reduces the,
Yeah.
That's about 10.
okay. So I mean, and the core piece of this and the basis for our agreement of it was that they would compensate us for the costs and the lost parking value, and that we wouldn't, although we would inconvenience those parkers to the extent that they have to go somewhere else, we could accommodate them. We're confident of that?
Yes.
I know that they had asked for the extra day for breakdown, because it's Saturday night, right? The event is.
Saturday night is the event,
Saturday
the
night.
14th.
So they needed to
I mean, they're
break down
always,
on Sunday, which wasn't a big deal.
and they're
but I-
always out on Sunday. That's always been.
Right, yeah, so, but I don't remember, I remember it being 2 lot days, like commuter days, Thursday and Friday.
It had always,
'Cause we
it was
asked them,
always
could you-
2 in the past, but I remember Dominic saying that he had a special need for additional
Because
staging.
he's got a bigger tent.
So, right,
And that
and he
was,
has
that
different
was,
staging
hold
going
on,
on.
now I remember exactly. Because what they were saying was, they may need, because we asked them, I think Colleen asked them to start Wednesday night. Could you start Wednesday night? And they said they would get back to us because they're gonna see if they're having more musical talent there that night, to honor the honoree. And if that was the case, they need that more time to set up. So it was left in question. And obviously, those musical guests are coming.
They are, yes. That is my understanding. So
I just think it's a long time, but
I agree it's a long time, but it does appear
the
that
longest
we can
ever.
accomplish it. I think it's.
it's longer than,
Right.
the big anniversary gala last year.
Well,
you
the
know,
anniversary was the 10th year. That was.
It is what it is, folks.
Do we mark those lots accordingly, and is
Yeah,
there an
they're
advance notice?
I mean,
Right.
right.
Both, yes to both.
So
The permit
And you've
holders
never
get
had
notices and then
anybody
we post
complain
the
about
lot.
this in the past?
Excuse me?
The people that get moved and displaced, they haven't complained?
We haven't had a problem.
Okay, good.
What goes on with the farmer's market Saturday? Do they know about this and do they do anything? Because
That's a good point.
I would think a good amount of people who come to the farmer's market are going to be
We have a-
displaced that
we have a-
Saturday?
Yeah, they
but
will.
that's been the case several years running.
We have a meeting tomorrow,
They're
a
aware
kickoff
of
meeting,
that
and I'll
date.
make sure that
Make sure
Peter
that comes
knows.
up. Yeah.
And he could put it in his bulletins.
I understand that we
We gotta get
can,
out.
you know, are able to communicate. It's, to me,
We're at
in
the
my
meeting
opinion,
too.
it's too much time.
Jonathan's at the meeting with me tomorrow.
And we even joked about it and said, don't come back and ask for more time. You know, 5 days for them to do this is an inconvenience for people who don't need to be inconvenienced from a group of people who are not paying for so.
It is, my opinion is, I am perfectly willing to approve this based on the certainty that we can accommodate our parkers elsewhere. Having this event in the village of Pleasantville, I believe, benefits us. It's a high-profile event with high-profile attendees, which puts Pleasantville in the news.
I mean,
So-
we haven't had a complaint.
We have not.
From these parkers in any of the years we've done this, so I'm not really worried about the time until we get complaints, and then we'll deal with it. And
Well, we never
please,
displaced them for
it-
3 days.
Well-
This is the longest yet. But you're right, we haven't, for the 2 days we have, we've never.
So if we get complaints
you
this
say.
year, we'll know next year that 3 days is too long. We pushed our limit. I
And
mean,
we have a place for them to go, right? It's not like they
Yeah, we
can't
find
park.
a
We'll find a
spillover.
spot.
We'll have spillover. I mean, it's summer. It's not as difficult. If it was winter.
It does clear up in the.
I mean, of all the
summer
things that
months.
we do that some are controversial, this has not been controversial
It's not getting
in the
anywhere.
controversial
And further,
category yet, so.
Although it's
Right.
a flossy, expensive event, it's raising money that is largely used to bring school kids to Pleasantville for great programs. So
I'd rather fight the battles that are actually battles than the ones that aren't.
We really don't hear anything. You know,
Okay.
and
All right.
it's well run and it's well done.
Okay.
all in favor?
Aye.
Motion approved. 69.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves the request from the Community Scholarship Fund to hold their annual 5K walk run for education on May 17th, 2014, subject to receipt of insurance.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
That will occur the same day as Pleasantville Day, which is May 17. Again, mark your calendars. All in favor? Motion approved. 70.
Me. Oh,
You,
resolved
yes.
that the Board of Trustees hereby authorizes the village administrator to hire a part-time office assistant for the administrator's office at a salary of $15.50 per hour.
Is there a second?
Second.
This
About
person
time,
would,
Patty.
This person would
What
replace
is the
Annette Tano.
qualifications for this? College student?
No, we look
Are
for
you considering
responsible
applying?
adults. You know,
I might
I am.
be.
yeah, it's cute. We yeah.
We're going to all compete for the job.
We had Annette Tano for many years, as you know, and Annette had, fortunately for her, been able to get a very nice full-time position at a school district. And we have budgeted a position, you know, that we have budgeted for the past few years. And we need office assistants for sporadic things, you know, when we get very busy seasonal things to occur. It's really an hourly dependent thing. Judy and I will decide when, you know, we need somebody to come fill in either vacation relief, answering phones, helping with some special projects like the music festival, dog licensing, a whole bunch of little things. So it's
Is this a union position or a
No.
civil service list or?
no, it's not competitive.
Okay.
Because it's part-time.
Do you have somebody in mind?
We do. We interviewed a woman named Carol Reiner, who was Westchester County Personnel Program Administrator for many years. She's retired from the county. She lives close by. She's available. If it works, we think that she understands confidentiality, she'll understand records management, she'll be able to keep our files in order. You know, we need somebody who really has a higher sense of organization when it comes to these things.
Took that record management's class at the county.
Yes,
That's the boringest class in the world.
it is true. So
All right,
we
all
hope
in
it
favor?
works.
Aye, motion approved. 71, Jonathan.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby appoints Diane Fisher to the position of Intermediate Account Clerk effective May 12, 2014 at a salary of $51,520. Said appointment is subject to the Westchester County Department of Human Resources' rules and regulations that include a probationary period of not less than 12 weeks to a maximum of 52 weeks.
Is there a second?
Second.
This is replacing a retiring employee.
Retired, Lorraine Pierce,
Right.
left us last week after 25 years.
Wow.
Thank you, Lorraine, for many years of service. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion approved. Steve, 72.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby appoints Mary Peter Gerlach, I hope I'm saying that right, to the position of Office Assistant effective May 5th, 2014, at a salary of $46,313. Said appointment is subject to Westchester County Department of Human Resources rules and regulation. That includes a probationary period, not less than 12 weeks to a maximum of 52 weeks.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion approved.
That person will be replacing Joni McGowan, who also retired after many valuable years of service.
Serving down at the senior center.
That is correct.
Thank you.
Joni is a fixture in Pleasantville and
Joni.
hopefully will remain so.
Joni, I hope she's having a good time.
73?
73.
Resolve.
Can we cue the music here? This deserves.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby accepts the retirement letter from Michael Testa dated April 23, 2014, advising that he will be retiring effective July 28, 2014.
Is there a second?
Second.
So Mike has been
See, I wasn't going to second that.
talking about retiring. If we don't second it, will
We don't second it. Motion is not being moved.
Just sits there.
Well, I can vote no.
Mike has served this village extraordinarily well and is retiring after pushing 30 years as our building inspector, and we have been the recent recipient of lots of letters.
I think it's over 30 years, isn't he? 30,
It's
oh,
over
almost
35 years in the
35 years.
system, but 30
Yeah.
years, it's about
Right.
30 years with Pleasantville.
Lots of letters from the people who ought to dislike him, but instead have written letters complimenting the firm-handed fairness that they have come to expect at the Pleasantville Building Department. So we will definitely have an opportunity to send Mike off with a rousing farewell, and those who may be interested in attending such a thing should stay tuned.
We do have a tentative date, Mayor, if we
Okay.
can announce it. It's June 19th at 6 o'clock at Trattoria 160 on Marble Avenue.
All right, so Thursday, June 19 at 6 p.m. at Trattoria 160. And anyone who might be hearing this who's interested in attending a dinner to honor Mike Testa should get in touch with Village Hall
We expect that we won't have any code violations with attendance that night. Mike will not be posting those signs. We do expect maybe a sellout crowd, so when we do get an announcement out, we ask people to respond early, so
Right.
we can get a good head count.
Well, it goes without saying that Mike deserves not only a great send-off, but our very sincere thanks for his many years of service, and we will miss him very much. And we will, however, have a little bit of fun in sending him off. So, mark your calendars for the 17th. All in favor?
Yeah, 19th.
19th, I'm sorry, I'm already mixing people up. All in favor? Aye, motion approved.
Nay, I'm voting nay, for a reason.
All right.
Okay? Did you vote nay? Yes.
Number 74, Mindy.
Okay, so this is the local law authorizing a property tax levy in excess of the limit established in General Municipal Law Section 3-C. Resolved that is this A, am I reading A?
No, you're on 74, which is the
whole-
property
Okay,
tax
pardon
levy
me.
thing.
Oh, boy. Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby adopts a local law authorizing a property tax levy in excess of the limit established in General Municipal Law as stated within the record, demonstrating legislative intent, authority, tax levy, limit override, severability, and the effective date. This is a different motion? Yeah.
Yeah, it's just
Is it
that
the
one.
same?
Yeah, that's
No,
fine.
that's
Just that
it,
one
you got it.
first.
Whereas the village administrator presented a tentative budget.
No,
No,
that's a new
we're
one.
done.
You're all set.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah,
It
is there a
just-
second?
It didn't end.
Yes. Is there a second for number 74, which
Yes,
is the
second.
local law
You're
authorizing a
absolutely
property
right.
tax
It
levy?
ended, Mindy
Right?
did not
I missed the
end.
page? Yeah, I missed
Yeah.
that page, yeah.
So this follows on to the public hearing that we just opened and closed. Probably enough said.
I'll read them all.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion approved. Now 70,
Did you second? I'm sorry.
5.
Steve did.
Steve?
Steve
Steve
seconded.
second.
Thank you.
Let's keep
Jonathan,
second.
number 75.
It's
A.
like Jeopardy. I jump
is.
in there really quick. And
Yeah.
motion, whereas the village administrator presented a tentative budget for fiscal year 2014 to 2015, and whereas the public hearings were duly held March 31st and April 28th before the Board of Trustees, now therefore be it resolved that the Village of Pleasantville's 2014-15 fiscal year budget is adopted as follows. The general fund expenditures of 13...
Never mind.
You're right down there, Dory.
Yeah, I'm,
$13,820,877. General fund real property tax revenues, $10,074,534. And general fund non-property tax revenues of $3,596,343. Using a general fund appropriation balance of amount $150,000. The assessed value of property is $112,142,152, with a tax rate per $1,000 assessed of $89.94, for a tax increase of 2.87%.
Is there a second?
second.
So just to sharpen that point, as Jonathan reported, the budget we are voting on now has general fund expenditures of $13,827,877. As a point of reference, our 2014 projected year end is $13,729,000. So our total increase in expenditures year to year is $90,000 on a budget of 13, pushing 14 million. So that I point that out just to underscore the care with which this budget is put together, the prudence that has been manifested by our finance department, Patty, by all our department heads, and the fact that there are many, many, many factors that go into the question of what the tax rate actually is. So as discussed, the tax rate increase proposed here is 2.87%, which we I think collectively believe will put us in a firm position.
Right, and to
Yes.
expect a taxable expenditures of almost $14 million of a village to go year to year with less than $100,000 increase mandated by a tax cap is not practical.
noticed it.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion approved. You have a budget.
Congratulations.
There is a tomorrow.
Run, run!
Right.
The clock starts ticking now toward the next one.
I want you to know that the discussion about this budget and about breaking the tax cap was vigorous and extended, with all of us struggling on many sides of the issue to determine what the right thing to do is. But I do think that it is likely that this will put us in a rather firm position, and also a good strategic point for us to break the cap as compared to next year. So
I just wanted to add, I think that's a really important point for the record, that this is done because of what we see coming down the road, trying to make sure that the village is on the right footing going forward.
okay, number 76.
That is me, right?
Yes.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Pleasantville hereby approves the refuse rates for the fiscal year 2014-2015 as follows. Each condominium unit, $330.86. One family residence, $441.14. Two family residence, $661.71. Three family residence, $992.57.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I with trepidation here, because this is the second year in a row we've raised this. I know this is a cap-sensitive budget, but I have a problem with, raising these kinds of rates 2 years in a row, even though it's minimus compared to how much we raised it last time. It's
Well-
just another.
It doesn't have a fund balance, that's the problem.
Right. The just sort of inside baseball here, the refuse fund is its own fund, separate from the other things we do, and the reason that is that we don't collect commercial garbage, and therefore commercial properties are not subject to this piece of the tax levy, and so as a result, it's a separate fund because it benefits a separate group, and it has its own fund balance. In other words, its own piggy bank, so to speak, and that fund balance has gotten dangerously low. So we've modestly increased these rates in order to secure that fund as its own piece.
Again, with an eye more toward the strategic than the tactical, correct?
Yes.
Well,
No, we'll both.
I would also say, just worth reminding everyone in a little point of history, that we went through an extended and extremely contentious discussion
Yes.
a few years ago about the idea of privatizing our sanitation, which is the case for the majority of villages, and quite a number of towns don't have their own sanitation department and instead use an outsourced vendor. That is the case for the town of Mount Pleasant, for example.
and the town of North Castle.
However, that was very vigorously opposed by the members of the community who weighed in on the subject. The result of it was that in the end we were able to reduce the staffing in that department and save some money there, albeit not as much as we advertising, but there are also obviously some other benefits, both tangible and intangible, including the fact that the refuse department provides additional staffing at moments of stretch for storm response and all that. So,
And we weren't that far off at the end of the day in terms of cost
Right.
versus a private. And it's one of the few services we actually provide where there is a private proxy that you can measure it
you can
against.
measure against.
So,
right.
Right, but with the private card, and I don't mean to re-litigate this issue again, but there's a tremendous amount of problems with, things being tacked on to people's bills, like fuel costs that,
You mean in
you
a-
have
in a
no
private-
control,
private
when you
sanitation
go to
setting,
a
so.
private carder, so.
right.
At any rate, kudos to our sanitation staff who, after that contentious process,
Done a great job.
everybody came back to the table and did the job, and we have all delivered, I think, on the commitments that were made on
Well,
all
it helps with
sides.
new trucks, too.
So,
Yeah, nice.
okay, number 77, water rates.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Pleasantville hereby approves the following water rates for the fiscal year 2014 through 2015. These rates are per cubic feet for residents, $64.74, non-residents in district, $82.80, non-residents, $97.33, bulk sales, $76.23. Ready to serve rates, they go from meter sizes 5/8 to 2 inches. The resident charges vary from $57 all the way to $359. Non-resident charges go from $71 to $373. Our sprinkler system quarterly charges, resident charge for 4 inches, $359.99, non-resident is $373, 6 inches, $704, non-resident is $718, 8 inches is $1394, non-resident is $1408. And for unit dwellings, we go from 4 units to 11 with a range from $387 to 387 to 1,035 is the range.
Is there a second?
Second.
Water fund has done better this year.
Because we
These
raised the rates
are
again.
the same rates. No, these rates are not being
But we
raised.
pay a lot,
Right.
we pay for our water.
These rates,
We are passing
Right.
what we pay on.
and these rates are unchanged from last year.
Yeah.
Again, for the benefit of those who may not be
But we
aware,
raised them last year.
we are partners with the town of Newcastle in a water filtration plant in Millwood. The water comes from the New York City reservoir system, but then is filtered to meet the requirements of the Clean Water Act, and then is delivered to the village of Pleasantville through an interconnect and ends up in our water tanks at the top of the hill above the pool and eventually in your home. So again, it's a separate fund because it benefits a group of people that is not exactly the same as the boundaries of the village.
And it's important to note that the raw water costs, yes, we did raise rates. Raw water costs went up 19%, I believe, last year.
Last year?
And they're going up.
No, they went up 23%, and they're set by the water board, who has no.
Okay, they went up 20-some% last year. They're going up another nearly 30% this year. And those are just the costs of doing
Right.
business. So, water rates are going to go up. I mean, as long as New York City keeps passing along raw water cost increases in the double digits, it's nearly impossible to keep rates lower.
But it's also, this is one of those things I was talking about before with, you may not look at it as a quality of life, but it is. It's if you were on well water, or if you were buying bad water from somebody else and it was unreliable, and that happens in our surrounding towns quite a bit, you'd be very happy to pay for your water and get a quality service. So it is worth it.
And I might add, all of us, Steve, now new among us, you haven't had this chance yet, but touring the water plant is both an interesting process and gives one a new appreciation of what's involved in order to make sure that drinkable water comes out of the faucet in your house, and that water with enough pressure comes out of the fire hydrant if a fire has to be fought. So quite a substantial effort, and we are well served, I think, no pun intended. All in favor? Aye. Motion approved. Number 78, Mindy.
It's very, very upsetting that I get this resolution. Resolved that the Board of Trustees, the Village of Pleasantville hereby approves the pool rates for the fiscal year 2014 to 2014.
It should say 15.
No,
14, 15, sorry.
yeah, as follows. The resident rates through 5/31/14, and then after 5/31, the family is $400. After is $450, individual $200. After is $225. A pay tag is $150, and after is $200. That means you pay every time you go. Senior citizen $75, after $65. Guest fee $10, after is still $10. School district rates through 5/31 and after 5/31, family is $600, after is $650. Individual is $275, after is $325, pay tag $175, $250, senior citizen $100, $125, and a guest fee remains at $10.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That's a nay for me, and only because I understand that these prices are raised because we have to pay off a bond, and we have some debt service on this now, but we've not done anything with our services down there. And we've been sitting on this bond, so I can't, in my own principle, vote yes for it, because there's nothing to show for it. Maybe a picture this year, that would be helpful, of what is to come. So.
We will have a picture of what's to come. We're hard at work on that. Number 79, Jonathan.
I have to gear up here after Mindy's.
was very
sad
short. I don't know
reading
what
there.
you're talking about.
So this is this is the approval of the parking meter rates. Resolved that the Board
Did
of
we really decide that?
Trustees of the Village of Pleasantville hereby approves the following parking meter rates to be effective June 1st, 2014. 25 cents per 20 minutes on street parking meters. 25, that should be 25 cents, right? Not .025.
You guys see the typo there?
25 cents per 15 minutes off-street meter parking.
Is there a second?
Wait,
All right,
am I
now this
understanding
is
it?
wrong here.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. It says 2.5 cents, and it should say.
You just have to move the
25
decimal
cents.
over.
But how does this
Well-
play with what we're going to be talking about in a couple of weeks with the new meters? So would this have an effective date? I mean, it's effective June 1. Could we redo this in September? Is there any?
Your budget's not, the budget adopted for the next fiscal year is not contingent on this revenue stream
Okay.
at all.
Okay, so
But
But-
our capital plan may be, so you can table this tonight.
But
We
further,
can
I mean,
talk to-
our off-street parking is cheaper than our on-street. And that's not the way this is written,
Off-street
right?
parking is cheaper than your
But that's not the way
on-street.
this is written right now.
This is the other way.
You guys swapped it. That's,
No, I don't think so.
No, we've raised all the rates.
Yeah, but this suggests that off-street would be higher than on-street.
that's what I mean, they swapped it.
So
yeah.
can I move that we table this? The background to this is we've been in an extensive discussion about our parking meter hardware for a variety of reasons, driven in part by the fact that we have pay and display units that are in the lot behind the bookstore MacArthur's, that lot off Manville Road, where you go to the machine, put in your money, you get a coupon that comes out and you put it on your dashboard. Those machines have been around for now more than 10 years and are starting to have significant problems and need to be replaced. We've been considering the question of what we could replace them with that might provide better utility for everybody, including potentially the possibility to pay with credit and debit cards. And Patty's been doing some research and is now, we're going to be having a presentation from one potential vendor who would be in a position to provide not only the capacity to pay at that sort of a group meter kiosk, but also the potential to pay with credit and debit cards at every on-street meter. That would be a significant capital investment, and it would introduce some ongoing annual costs to pay for the service for the credit cards, but it would present the possibility that wherever you parked in Pleasantville, if you don't have quarters or change in your pocket, you can pay with a credit or debit card, which would be a substantial convenience, I think, to everybody. And add to that it would also provide us with a great data stream annually that would accumulate and allow us to really better understand how the dynamics of parking are working in the village. So all of that led to the thought that that significant investment, which is pushing potentially $200,000 in expense to replace all of our meters, would need to be offset by an increase in meter fees. But that, I think, we need to pair those two discussions more closely, so
I agree.
all agree to table?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
Table?
I think it should be tabled.
Okay, number 79 is tabled. That was it. That's the last of our evening.
Can't win them all. Excuse me?
Could we
Well, the
just
budget
announce the,
resolutions, I'm sorry, there are budget resolutions.
Oh, I'm sorry, yes, we had an add-on, yes.
Thank you, Mayor. I know I waited for that all night.
Yeah, it was
There's
an
a
add-on.
clean up the
yeah.
record. Poor Mayor. Poor Noreen.
What is the resolution?
Authorizing the village treasurer
No.
Right, so that would be Steve, number
Oh,
80.
you get the
to make budget amendments as per the
Right.
attachment.
Okay.
And just announce the amounts.
I can
Text. Just give me a minute to compose my
Thank you.
resolve.
free feeling. Resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Pleasantville approve the budget transfer request form amending accounts for the fiscal year 2013-14 as provided to us and set forth in this handout.
great
that?
job, rookie.
You like
I'll
that?
tell you, Jonathan couldn't do that now. And how many years? I'm telling you.
You would have stammered, stuttered, everything. Great job, rookie. That's all I have to say.
Dory just slammed
Boy.
you.
Man,
Dory just
Droopy
let you
dog
have
just
it.
gave me a left hook.
the other side of the room is a little
Shane,
chilly over there.
would it harm the dynamics of the TV program if I sat in the jury box?
I think it would make things more
A
exciting.
wide angle.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
So this is the extended year-end process of balancing over-budget accounts by shifting money from under-budget accounts to different arrangements, one an increase and a decrease, balancing at 11,300, the other
You got
at
another one.
63,714.
We get another
That's a
one.
separate resolution.
Can't we do them both together?
Oh, we can?
They're together.
Okay, go ahead, Steve. Let him
No,
have it.
No,
No, I didn't.
He's okay.
As
Don't
set
even-
forth in
Oh,
this
okay,
handout.
you're good?
That's set forth in the handout.
Okay, oh boy,
So-
even better, oh
Look at
my
that. I
gosh.
give you
So
two for
I'm
these
these.
are-
so impressed.
These are
I never got
things
the
are
handout.
deteriorating here.
I never got it.
All right.
I didn't get a handout when I had to make this stuff.
Hold
up,
it,
and then you
we
make me
we
fun
have a
of it.
motion on the table. So these are all exchanges between accounts and do not change the overall budget. All in favor? Aye. Motion approved. Okay.
Okay, I just wanted to mention that the PCTV Gala is on May 3rd, and if you can still buy tickets now, and if you, I don't know, should I give the website? Our jsk23g@yahoo.com, or just go on to the PCTV76.org website. And the honoree is Bill Flukes, and can't think of a better guy to honor at this event. So please, everybody, if you could come, it's going to be a great night, and hope to see you all there. Are you going to be my date? You want to be my date? Can you
All true.
Can I add one?
When is it?
Is it too late to go back and add something about this handout?
You could add
I
something
think-
to the record,
please.
Chairman.
Well, I just think it's important to note that the reason why this happens is because you guys cannot carry a negative balance in your account. Right, so
Right.
we transfer this money, did you say that? I'm repeating it.
Feel free.
I'm sorry.
Illuminate
It's
that.
just,
That's
it's
great.
important that
Yes.
people understand that the way the municipal accounting is done is you cannot carry a negative balance in any of the sub-accounts that the budget works under. So things are higher, other things are lower, and they need to be trued up at the end of the year. And that's all it is.
All true. Thank you for that, Steve. Be reminded again, Saturday, May 3, at the parking lot next to Farrow's Field off Village Lane. Bring your used sports equipment that you no longer want to the Pleasantville Recycling Committee. They will collect it on your behalf and redistribute it to those who may want it, totally free of charge at Pleasantville Day on May 17th. Great program, been very successful. A great way to clean out the garage and the basement of things you may not need anymore. And instead of having them end up in a landfill, have them end up in somebody else's garage or basement because they have kids who need them. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Good night.
Good night. I thank you all.
Thank you, Mary and Noreen, for staying.